Hello everybody and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
Different studio setup today, James.
Yeah, and I can't see the gizmos, so I want to know that you've actually pressed record.
The red light is on. Can you see the red light?
Yeah, I can see the red light,
Okay, see this red light here. If that red light is never not on, then we're screwed.
Okay, fine.
If the red light is on, red light, green light, you wouldn't get that reference.
Did you have a red...
You've never watched Squid Game, I don't think, have you?
I've heard people saying it recently.
Red light, green light, yeah. If the red light's on,
you're dead.
In Squid Game, you die. But in Planet FPL world, it means the studio's functioning and recording.
Red arrow, green arrow this week, sir.
Green arrow.
Yay.
It was the first one in about 6 weeks. And it was also actually quite a big green arrow. So I was at 800. So I'm going to tell you exactly now, James. View Gameweek history. So I went from 954 to 668. It's quite a big jump. The third up. That's my second green arrow in a row. Prior to that, I'd had 5 red arrows. So I'd gone from 450, which is my highest of the season, down to 1.2 million. So in 2 weeks, I've halved my rank, back up to 668k. And that was despite having first sub João Cancelo.
Good lad.
And also, obviously Ben Foster on the bench as well. You'll remember the differential show that we do for Patrons.
At 25 points on the bench.
On 25 plus Ben Johnson plus Basuma's 27, mate. You'll remember the differential show where I had benched Rafinha first sub, and you're like, play Rafinha, mate, ahead of Gallagher.
Oh, Gallagher scored, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, no, but I played. You said I'd play Rafinha ahead of Gallagher. I was like, fine, right. I put Rafinha and bench Gallagher, and I said, but I want to play Gallagher, and you said I'd play Gallagher over Cancelo. So I said, fine, fuck it, I'll bench Cancelo first sub. It's Man United, right? It isn't too bad. In the end, obviously, Gallagher's 11 points versus Cancelo's 14 is a 3-point difference. It's not the worst it could have possibly been. And the one defender that didn't return for me this week was Rudiger, and he's never going to drop Rudiger.
I mean, if you only got one Chelsea defensive, you don't even particularly want the clean sheet at the moment anyway, subject to where your rank is.
But yeah, the game week went well, kind of. I had points from Havertz's goal, Rafinha, Conor Gallagher, Ben White, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Do you miss me yet, James?
I'm good, you know. I'm good.
Trent, I'll say it now. A free kick within 2 meters of the box is basically a penalty for Liverpool, isn't it? Really, because his right foot is a thing of beauty.
Beautiful free kick.
Yeah. And and I had Ben Foster first sub, but that's by the by.
Everyone's had that this week. Yeah. The goalkeeper winners this week were the people who owned David Raya who didn't sell him. Because so many went to Sanchez, right?
Yeah. And I had owned Sanchez since game week 1, mate. So that was the biggest disaster for me this week was Sanchez. It's only a 1-game ban. I may actually just play Foster next week and be done with it. Is it worth a goalkeeper hokey cokey right now when I make wildcard in a couple of weeks? But I only made one transfer this week, and it is possibly my favourite FPL transfer of all time. I sold Brandon Williams of Norwich and I bought Ben Johnson of West Ham because he was 0.1 cheaper. And I think actually off the back of, he didn't get many points yesterday, but off the back of the performance and the price, who's the best 3.9 in the game right now? Possibly
staying in.
Johnson. So, we can discuss that in a little while. But yeah, so 64 points. Sorry, game week rank 396k. I'll take it all day long, and so I just want to get back inside.
What did you score?
64.
Okay, good.
Yeah, 64 is decent. And nothing from a front line. Antonio, Ivan Toney, and Harry Kane. Nothing. So my midfield and my defence cleaned up.
You can find it, Suj, our old Aston Villa correspondent, Adam Hopcroft from the Green Arrow. He tweeted this morning saying there were only 4 forwards who had a big chance this weekend. And when you see the list of who those 4 forwards were, it's like, oh, yeah, no wonder everybody ranked. Might as well be wanked. Rodrigo was 1. I forget who the other 3 were. Josh King was 1, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, it was none of the big names. None of the big names.
No. So there we go. A decent week. What about yourself?
Green for me as well. Up about 50k to 370k. 58-pointer. With Cancelo 14-pointer, Livramento 6, Rafinha 9, Kai Havertz 8. That's basically my week.
I mean, Salah, captain assist.
Salah's returns are irrelevant.
I am just trying to figure out whether Salah's assist yesterday was better or worse than Vertonghen's assist for that Sun goal against Burnley.
Oh, yeah, because if Salah doesn't stop the ball, Trent's passing it to the corner flag, isn't he? So, in theory, Salah's actually had a role to play here.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, Salah's returns for those who captain him are absolutely irrelevant. It's only relevant for those who don't captain him at the moment. Was his effective ownership top 10k? It was about 188% again or something.
To be honest with you, I let other people do EO and tell me what it needs to be or what it is or where to be careful with EO. So yeah, I don't really do EO, James, but I know that you're talking either side of 200% with Mo Salah. So. It is what it is.
I bought Ivan Toney for Mikel Antonio, as I think a lot of people will have done. I think it's just playing the fixtures, isn't it, to be honest? But I think Brentford had the second highest XG at the weekend still, but they didn't play well in the first half, admittedly. Still got a good fixture with Newcastle to come. They've gone from losing to the team that's bottom of the league this week. They might lose to the team that's bottom of the league in 2 weeks, actually. And plan now is I've got 2 free transfers. One will be Kai Havertz to Heung-min Son, and the other one is just find the money. And I've really not given it too much thought, Suj, because I imagine something's going to happen in the next 12 days or so that's probably going to make the decision for me. Someone gets flagged or something. I think Kieran Tierney is probably the one on the chopping block, having not come straight back in yesterday, but I do have a defensive issue for game week 13, because I know I see a lot of people going, that's it, I'm playing Livramento every week. Okay, screenshot me that shit when you play him at Anfield in game week 13. So I need some cover for that one, as may some other people. I think he's probably the one on the chopping board. I can see me buying Spurs, you know that. And it would have to be, for me, to find the money, it would have to be Dyer or Davis.
Ben Davies had a chance yesterday, didn't he?
He did have a shot from distance, yeah.
I do remember catching a bit of commentary on it yesterday. For me, I've got 2 frees and I continue to roll. I'm looking at Kai Havertz to Diogo Jota. You already own Jota, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, with Firmino out with a hamstring injury for a while.
He's possibly not going to be as bad as Jurgen Klopp said serious, and that made me think all 3 months, but he said like at least 4, which he considered as weeks, which he considered as serious. It's enough to get Jota in at that price. Oh yeah, with Jota, two home games to come as well.
Yeah, and they need to win now after dropping points against their title rivals yesterday. So Havertz to Jota is very clean and easy. It also gives me about $500,000. I don't know if Jota's had a price rise this week yet. I haven't checked.
He'll come.
International break. I may even ride the price rise. And
I ain't making no early moves. Like I see people, I need to buy Son now. He's going up in price. I ain't doing shit yet.
I will then have a little bit of money and I'll decide what to do with it. I may roll again, to be honest with you. The only other person on the chopping block for me was Mikel Antonio, but I'm not really selling him before Wolves. And when we talk about the games, I thought he'd had one of his worst games yesterday for a while, Antonio. And you know what happens when I cuss out Mikel Antonio. So
wow, that'll be a hat trick at Molineux.
So I'm not going to sell him because I think a lot of other people will. So I do feel like for a team that's scoring a lot of goals at the moment, I don't need to sell him. I don't need to lose the value. Where am I going? So I'm going to keep him, I think.
He's also just gone through the 7 stages of Kai Havertz, hasn't he? Because you've had 7 attacking returns and he's not got one of them in the last 2 game weeks. That's incredible.
So yeah, I think he stays for me, Antonio. So it might just be Havertz to Jota this week and then wait and see with the rest of the money. Play Ben Foster and bench Sanchez. But you know... if I have a bit of money, Bissouma to somewhere might be interesting. It's not really that interested. Keep on rolling. Keep on rolling.
Other ones in mind for me is I could obviously find the money from Jose Sarr, who obviously play you next. But obviously I'm intending to wildcard in 16, so that doesn't seem worthwhile when he's got Norwich away, Burnley at home to come in the 4 remaining fixtures. But I could drop him down to Gator, for example. Rudiger, I'd consider possibly even selling at the moment. Maybe to get me...
upgrade. to
No,
another
I need
Chelsea.
to, I need
You need money.
Yeah, I haven't got enough to go Havertz to Son, so I need to find a little bit. So Rudiger to even Emerson Royal. I actually favour him over Reguilon at the moment, you know. I think I would go that way for a very short period.
Many listeners do tune into our pod over anything else because of Spurs and West Ham, because they know our allegiance. Plus, also, we watch...
Because we're shit at FPL, that's why as well.
Well, yeah, we're shit at FPL for sure. My football team definitely aren't shit right now. But a lot of people do tune in for specific advice around those clubs, especially Spurs at the moment because of your fixture turn. And I was going to say, let's talk about it when we talk about the games. But you're mentioning it now. And I think for the benefit of the listeners who probably don't want to listen to all the rambling, you've just come off the back of 2 performances with 0 shots on target. And then now, and a lot of people had pre-planned the move to Son. No one had planned the defensive move, but you did pick up a clean sheet at the weekend. Off the back of what you've seen in the last 2 games, many listened to the pod on Friday after the European game. Take what you want with that because it's European. What's giving you the confidence from what you saw yesterday to double up on the attack and potentially, as you mentioned, add a third? Like, are you doing it in spite of yourself?
There's absolutely nothing I've seen that makes me think. It's interesting, actually.
Son for me, for Havertz, was actually a real possibility because I could downgrade Antonio.
Son was shite yesterday. Harry Kane was no better. Shite yesterday, human Son. Honestly, I'm still going to go and buy him. I don't give a fuck. For me, I'm back in the fixtures. I'm interested to see those who are really into the kind of the analytics of FPL and make their decisions based on that. Like, you cannot buy the Spurs players at the moment. You can't. Mate, by the time we play Leeds, we will legitimately be in a period of 28 days in the Premier League without a shot on target by the time the game comes around.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
And I mean, we
don't need shots on target. I've tweeted it yesterday. We didn't have one in the first half yesterday. Still managed to score a goal.
Yes, shots on target are well overrated, aren't we? Mate, when it actually happens, it'll be, we've had a shot, we've had a shot.
So, you still... See, and then I'm thinking about, okay, people have steamed into Brentford playing the fixtures. Again, double up on the attack. It didn't necessarily work out at the weekend again. And it's putting me off. And I could get hurt with Son. I'm going to stick with Kane because I've got no reason to move him on. But I could get hurt with Son. But I probably don't mind. For my mental health, I'm like, fine. I'm comfortable making that decision because I'm doing it based on what I see on the pitch. I reckon I'd actually rather buy a defensive asset than an attacking asset because Conte will shore you guys up maybe a little bit more. It's easier for him to shore up the back.
But it's still rubbish, and we played someone yesterday who's powder puff, right?
Okay. But so you're still going to do it. Are you in a situation where you're going to do as I say, not as I do? And the say is don't buy a Spurs player, and the do is I'm going to get a Spurs player?
I think it's dependent on where you're at. I just generally think, as I said, for those who are heavy into making their decisions based on statistic-based data, how do you buy an attacking player from a team that hasn't had a shot on target for 2.5 games? Is reality. Yeah. Now, we know there's other factors here. There's the European game in midweek where Sonny scored, Kane's got an assist, we've scored 3 goals. You could say Everton under Rafa Benitez, never the easiest place to go. West Ham away was obviously a difficult game. United came, changed the system. Obviously, the atmosphere in the ground went to fuck. The manager got sacked, right? So there's a bit of mid-game, and we're not playing those 3 teams in the 4 fixtures coming up. He's Leeds at home, who it's almost impossible to go through a game of football with not having chances against Leeds. Like, there's no way Tottenham don't have shots on target against Leeds.
Yeah.
Then it's Burnley away. Tough, stingy. We'd expect probably a low-scoring game, but decent fixture. Brentford at home looks like it might be becoming a more appealing fixture in terms of attacking assets against them. And then it finishes with Norwich at home, who knows, by then might be managed by Big Sam Allardyce and might be winning 1-0 at Tottenham in game week 15. I doubt that Sam Allardyce is under consideration for Norwich. So it's back in the fixtures. And then I'm straight off, aren't I? So I'm wildcarding in 16. So I'm literally, every decision I make now is basically based on fixtures. Like, I'm looking now to 2 transfers, one being Son, one to allow me to get Son. Again, short-term thinking, so perhaps teams like Tottenham because of the fixtures, Brentford, Crystal Palace, just kind of see me through, give me a little bit of cover. Then I'm looking at rolling. Then I'm looking at Callum Wilson, 14. 2 home fixtures. Again. So I'm possibly considering that my move to get Son in also needs to allow me Tony to Wilson in 14. And then 15 is just when I get there 1 week punt, bam, slam into something. So I'm very short-term thinking in my mindset at the moment. I don't need to think longer. And I think even for those thinking longer, it's very difficult to look at those 4 fixtures and not be interested. Whatever you think of the way Tottenham are playing at the moment. Because if anybody else had those 4 fixtures, we'd be all going right, we're clamouring for it. And actually, a lot of people have obviously gone early because of what Everton have been doing recently, conceded 5 at home to Watford. But then there's kind of the proof, right? I didn't concede 5 goals to Tottenham yesterday. In fact, no, didn't concede a shot on target. It's worth saying the 2 Everton had on target were absolutely pony as well. It basically wasn't a shot on target in the game. No. It was a very poor game of football. Certainly in terms of from an excitement perspective. But yeah, I'm going on. I'm back in the fixtures, mate. There isn't a right or wrong Son Kane, exactly what we said on Friday's podcast. I think it probably depends more on your structure. Like a lot of people obviously want to get to Ronaldo for 16. Fine, go Kane. Hold him as a placer there for Ronaldo. Perhaps other people don't want to go down that route. Okay, if they're going down the Son route, what are they doing when they want to get Ronaldo? Because there's a chance you'll want Ronaldo for 15. You're not selling Son in 15 when he's got Norwich at home. So I think it's down to personal circumstance. And for myself, as someone who's wildcarding 16, I'm going both. Because sometimes you need to find the next template, right? And I don't think, you know, Harry Kane's not going to become a template, but the only thing that really can create form is someone obviously either finds it or you back the fixtures. Because if Harry Kane had, you know, United at home, West Ham away again, would I be going to buy him this week? No. It's those fixtures that might create the form. So I'm going in. I've obviously already got Harry. I ended up getting him early because I had an injury. Lukaku, thank you. Lukaku, obviously. So otherwise, I wouldn't have been buying Kane till next week, personally.
Havertz did return at the weekend.
Yeah, you go Kai. I feel for those people who jumped from Havertz to Mount after Mount's hat-trick against Norwich. Havertz has got 14 points since and Mount's got 1. There's a lesson there in chasing points. Sorry, Suj.
If you heard in the international break that Lukaku or Werner were not ready for their next fixture, is it Leicester away?
Leicester away, yeah.
Would you be tempted to hold Havertz? I mean, their run is tough anyway. Leicester away, followed by Manchester United, then Watford, but then West Ham.
Is this tough? Both those teams look quite weak defensively at the moment, actually, Leicester and Man United.
Yeah.
Although Leicester better off having than Diddy back, definitely.
I mean, if we're playing the fixtures, Leicester, Manchester United, Watford, West Ham, 3 grey fixtures. We won't call them red, we'll call them grey fixtures in there.
We might not even play at Watford.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm necessarily torn on holding Havertz, even if we heard that Lukaku and Werner were out.
No, I'm definitely going Havertz to Son. Yeah. And the reason I wouldn't go Havertz to Son is if, say, perhaps Jota got injured in the international break. I might have to look at something else. Yeah. But I think even in that case, where would I go then Jota to find the money?
To Smith-Rowe, maybe?
Or Gallagher, Smith-Rowe, whatever. It's probably, with Arsenal playing Liverpool away, it's probably not the right week for Smith-Rowe. But yeah, I'm probably more likely to do that. To find the money would still be move Havertz on. So yeah, I think it's definitely going to go for me. The irony is, before the Norwich game, those 3 fixtures, a goal and assist, it's reasonable, isn't it, from the 3 games? It's just a fucking none against Norwich was painful, that's all.
Southampton 1, Aston Villa 0. We'll get into the games, we'll give you a rundown, and we'll do the best we can. You predicted a victory in this. I thought it may be a draw because Villa really were up against it, and the net outcome is that Dean Smith is gone. I have to say I'm surprised that they let him go. I thought he deserved a little bit more time. When you have such a big turnover in personnel in your squad, it's hard to get the team working in a system again. And he has proven that he is a good manager, but obviously Aston Villa are in a very bad way at the moment. 5 defeats in a row. It's not long ago that they were staying up on the last day of the season with a draw at our place. So they did turn the corner last year, but back to where they were a couple of years ago. The story is going to be about Dean Smith, but Southampton, again, picking up points. They are probably the team that I got wrong most at the start of the season, Southampton.
Yeah, I think all of us were very concerned about the defensive record.
And with what's his face going to Leicester as well.
You mean Danning's going to Villa?
No, Southampton defensively. You're talking about what's his name went to Leicester.
Vestergaard.
Vestergaard went to Leicester. And that made them weaker. Like Vestergaard and Bednarek were decent, but Vestergaard was the main man there. So defensively, I was worried about Southampton. Are you talking about Villa? Defensively, you're worried about?
No, I'm saying Southampton
So,
pre-season, because their goals conceded in the second half of the season was outrageous. Compared to even like way more than Sheffield United and stuff. And that was even if you removed the 9-0 at Manchester United, they were still the worst team defensively in the second half of the season. So I think we have right to be concerned. I think Salisu actually is giving them a nice bit of balance at the moment. I don't think he's a great footballer, but I think he's doing all right at the moment actually as left-sided centre-back. It's working. He's growing as a player. The fullbacks are a threat. I mean, Cole Walker-Peters, actually, on Friday night, was highest average position of any Southampton player. No, not Tino Livramento. Cole Walker-Peters on the other side. KWP is not an option, unfortunately, because he's unlikely to get attacking returns as the left-back, despite the average position. And him and Romain Pereira have been kind of rotating a little bit left back. But Livramento's playing every game, isn't he?
He is.
My timeline Friday was so funny. I could have sworn for most people their game week was already over. It was either brilliant or it was either commit suicide. I've got Livramento on the bench. Well, so did I. Well, thanks Kieran Tierney for not showing up for Arsenal.
Listen, I had Cancelo on the bench a day later, so worry about that.
I saw people celebrate that. I went Livramento over Cancelo. I'm Billy Big Bollocks. Yeah, all right, calm down.
Never count your chickens. Never count your chickens. I don't own Livramento, and if he was to come in for my fourth defender slot, he'd come in for Ben White, which is pretty much like for like on price swap. And if he was to come in as fifth defender, he'd come in for Ben Johnson, where I'd have to spend a bit of money. I don't feel like I need to move either on to get Livramento.
No, I mean, look, it's Norwich away next, which new manager.
If I had Ramsdale in goal, I'd feel comfortable moving Ben White on for Livramento because I've still got the Arsenal coverage. But Arsenal's fixtures aren't great moving forward.
Well, after Norwich for Southampton, it's Liverpool away, Leicester at home, Brighton at home, Arsenal away, Palace away, Brentford at home, West Ham away, Tottenham at home. I mean, you can play Livramento in a lot of these, but a lot of people say, I'm going to play him every week. No, listen, he's basically the ideal cover at the moment, isn't he? Whether you're... I mean, people... I get a lot of questions saying, is it now time to go back 5? Okay, so what, Livramento is one of those 5? Okay, fine, but then what's your shit bench to cover for the inevitable rotations for the likes of Cancelo, Reece James, etc.? He's ideal for it, isn't he? I think like Norwich away, most people are going to go, yeah, I'm playing that. But actually afterwards, are you going to play him at Anfield? I think consider the bigger picture, personally. Big goal for Adam Armstrong owners, probably a disappointment for Broha owners. I think in the case of both, there's not a lot you can do with Norwich away next. But I'd probably be looking to sell after that because it's just too confusing with Che Adams in that situation. Redmond's been used as a forward until the last couple of weeks as well. They're definitely going to reintegrate Stuart Armstrong into that team. I think he's a very good player. He's obviously suffered badly with injuries. He improves that team. They're better off having Ward-Prowse back. At the moment, do you know what? It's like Hassan Hootel changed his clothing clobber and they've got better. That's how it feels to me. It's like in pre-season, like, what can I do different? I'm going to start wearing some funky trousers. It looks like he's going to play golf all the time, doesn't it? Now, we like Ralph as well, I
Massively.
think. Yeah.
Massively.
So I'm pleased because I think the fixtures they had, it was right to be concerned that by this stage he could have been him rather than Dean Smith going with the fixtures they've had. They've had a good couple of weeks. In spite of the Norwich fixture, I don't think I'd go buying their assets, but I mean, you still can't buy Tino, mate.
Yeah, Livramento's okay to get, but I don't. It is not. It would definitely be a want, not a need, and I don't want him that much. And it's not fixing a problem. Say Ben White was to get injured, for example, then yeah, sure, it's there and it's ready to go. And even if he went up to 4-5 or 4-6, I'd still feel all right with getting. He's already 4-5, isn't he? I think maybe 4-6, so I'd already feel all right with him.
with Villa assets, I don't think I would be looking at them in terms of manager bounce because of the fixtures that I've said. Lee Jackson's going to be recording myself later for tomorrow's People's Poll podcast, and we're gonna do kind of a whole half hour on Aston Villa tomorrow and the potential impacts and what he'd like to see for Villa and the emotion of a kind of a split with the Villa fan base at the moment in terms of disappointed. Was it right? We'll have that discussion. The only thing on Villa I want to bring out from the game is how the fuck did El Ghazi make it so long on the pitch without getting sent off? This was unbelievable. Definite first yellow, definite second yellow he got avoided for, and mate, we're calling you out for worst dive of the season so far. I'm really, really annoyed with this whole simulation business. It's like since we brought VAR in, people don't get booked. There was a period in the last 4 or 5 game weeks of last season where referees finally decided they were going to book people for simulation. He's completely stopped again. He's so inconsistent. I want in that, and I think everybody agrees with this, right, VAR, pick that up and get involved and say, we've got a cheat on the pitch, deal with it, get rid. Or go back and retrospectively look at it. I know they were only banning people for actually deceiving referees, which now with VAR shouldn't obviously be happening. But let's get rid of this. I don't understand the diving now in the penalty area. If the referee gives it, what's going to happen?
They're going to check it.
VAR's going to look at it and going to go, you fucking dived, mate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a little bit frustrating. Difficult to say what Villa will do next in terms of system. We've got literally zero clue on the manager at this stage.
No. I heard Frank Lampard's quite up there as with the bookies and what have you, but we shall see. Manchester United 0, Man City 2 kicked off Saturday with the derby, probably as we expected. Really, I felt Man City just we're like a boxer, just keeping the other guy at arm's length and just controlling the fight. 12 rounds. They were very good, Man City in possession. Strangely, I really still want to get Ronaldo back. Because United have been rubbish before historically, and they'll go on a run, and by Christmas they'll be back inside the top 4, and they'll have done okay, and they'll just kind of do the bare minimum to survive and get by without completely imploding. I still think that come Christmas, Manchester United will be back inside the top 4 and have had quite a decent run with the fixtures that they have coming up, bar Chelsea. So I can't buy any City players. I've already got Cancelo because I don't know who's going to play week in, week out, and I don't know who to go to.
You are allowed 3 of them.
City? Yeah, I know. But I don't know where I'd go. And Ronaldo for me is a very easy buy for Manchester United. I just think this is as we expected. 2 teams as they are. City great in possession, United not in great shape.
So let's go kind of full circle. We will talk about the game a little bit. But this time last week,
I wanted Ronaldo.
You were going to sell Kane. Now, by the end of last Monday, it looked like Conte was coming in and you'd very much changed your mind.
Yeah.
So you're not going to go Kane and Ronaldo, surely?
Not both. I can't afford to.
So are you genuinely saying you're thinking of moving Kane to Ronaldo?
My want is to do that. But I don't need to. Because Kane's fixtures are just as good as Ronaldo's, if not better. Kane's fixtures are better than Ronaldo's. But Ronaldo's definitely a better player in a team that creates more. Generally, I know people are going to be but United were crap. They were fine, but they played City. They didn't get the ball. United still can create chances and score goals. They've got a great attacking threat. You've got 2 players. You've got Son and Kane. That's it. They've got loads. Would I rather have Ronaldo in my team than Kane? Yes.
Yeah, but they're only playing with 2 attacking players at the moment, so all that loads is doing nothing for them, mate.
True, but they can't approach the games that they've got coming up by Chelsea in the way they approach the City game, for sure. The fans won't accept that, and if Ole wants to get himself out of a job, he can go for playing with as many defensive or defensive-minded players as he wants to. It's not going to happen. I do think Ronaldo's a good bet. So it comes back to it's a want. I don't need to move Kane on with the fixtures that you have. If I was to go completely Spursless, I don't think I'd feel comfortable. I'm happy not having the double up, which many people are going for, but I won't want to go completely Spursless.
I think if you're a Ronaldo owner, you certainly obviously hold him for Watford away, and you would not move to Harry Kane. When United go to Chelsea the following week and Kane goes to Burnley, you might look at it as a kind of on-off.
For 3 games?
But I think, you need to be in a luxury position you can afford to do that, right? Would you be doing it for -4s? I don't think that feels particularly right when Kane goes to Burnley, because, as said, you wouldn't see that being a high-scoring encounter. And by the time you get to 14, suddenly Ronaldo's got Arsenal at home and Palace at home. And yes, Kane's 2 are better, but it's be 2 transfers for you, because you'll definitely want to go back to Ronaldo. So I can see those who are still on Ronaldo just staying on Ronaldo. I don't think it's a given that you move to Kane. I don't think you can for Watford away. You cannot sell him, basically. The game itself was a training match.
Yeah. Shadowboxing type. Just keeping them at arm's length. Jab, jab, jab. Done.
I know, obviously, City won 6-1 at Old Trafford 10 years ago, actually. It would have been about 10 years ago. But this was easier for them than that day. Watching the second half passively, thinking, oh my God, Man United can't even get the ball into City's half. It was so easy for City. You've got United players just still doing different things. And I'm going to have to shout out Bruno Fernandez, because he keeps going into business for himself. He's a major problem for United at the moment. He wants to go and press the ball, and I get it. But it's like, he's doing it for himself. His mates ain't going to join in. Yeah. So stay part of that midfield three. And Bruno Fernandez played a very withdrawn role. He has done the last 2 couple of weeks. But he played with his brain at Tottenham. At City, it's like, it's going against us. Fuck it, I've got to go and win the ball. You're just causing yourself problems. Liverpool pass through you. Do you think City aren't? Yeah. If you don't go and win it, they're just going to pass through you. I think there was 7 or 8 City players had over 60 passes or so. It just passed them to death. The second half was kind of an awkward watch. And I think City made the same choice that Liverpool did, was, you ain't scoring. We could embarrass you properly here, but we're not going to.
I agree with that. They could have really taken to the sword.
Absolutely. Phil Foden, for me, is still the best buy if you want an offensive one. Yep. I wouldn't have a doubt about that. Yep. Very reasonable if you've got Chill, no problem. Cancelo's not a left back.
He's a midfielder that gets clean sheet points, isn't he? Really?
I mean, you'd make a case that Cancelo is the best left back in the league, and he might be the best right back as well.
I was about to say exactly that, mate. I'm not
very
sure
debatable.
Which player on either side, he's very good. Very good.
Absolute top player. And he's the one I've got, and he goes absolutely no. I mean, Everton at home next as well, with their problems offensively at the moment, that looks like a given clean sheet. The fact it's a Sunday as well is also beneficial to them. Although they do play PSG 3 days later, it's also at the Etihad. So, I mean, he could rest a few against Everton. It's the same dilemma as always with Guardiola. This was so easy. No one learned anything from this game other than Manchester United are definitely cannot challenge for the title this year, and they've got to fight on for 4th. If they come through the next couple of weeks, okay, they're probably still favourites to do it because of that massive long run we've spoken about. But little things like Palace at home suddenly doesn't look quite such an easy fixture in 15. That was always the kind of either Arsenal in 14 doesn't look easy anymore, or Palace at home in 15 doesn't look easy anymore. As Roy Keane correctly said, and I disagree with a lot of things he says, is like, this is not a difficult place to come to at the moment. No. And he's right. It's almost easier playing United at Old Trafford than playing them at home. And that bears fruit from the statistics, right?
Yeah, I mean, they went on that massive long run away from home.
Exactly.
But let's talk about Brentford 1, Norwich 2. Battle of the promoted sides that we really didn't think Norwich were going to get anything out of. And everyone, obviously, not everyone, but the Twitterverse did double up on Brentford attack a lot on Bomo and
it feels like nearly everyone's got at least one of them.
Rico Henry sitting there in my minus 56 team. If you want to know more about the minus 56 league, then you might want to think about joining our Patreon. But we do run a competition.
Sitting on the bench of mine.
It's basically a free hit every week, and it's a really good little competition that we're running. But his 10 points were very nice in that, even though I did.
You know, people do that shit thing where they say, "Oh, I was going to buy him." Yeah. Like, honestly, if Kieran Tierney had been injured, I probably would have. He probably would have been the one I went for.
If I was looking at, I I don't watch that much Brentford. All I remember is the game against us and how high he played. That's it, and that's the lasting burning memory in my mind for Rico Henry. So for him to score a goal, great. However, I'm happy for Norwich, despite Daniel Farke going. And regular listeners will know I'm in a WhatsApp group with the Norfolk County Council. All the boys in there are Norwich. There was anger in that group with Farke being let go 2 hours after. It was the anger of what the fuck type. Like, why has this suddenly happened? And I chucked in there your sentiment, which was international break, leave on a win. It's been 4 years. It probably just felt naturally a good time to part company. And when some of the guys saw it in that light, they weren't happy, but they were accepting, I would probably say, is the way to put it.
It appears, reading between the lines, that Norwich's owners made their decision on Saturday morning. Like, legitimately, that seems when
it's definitely made before the game.
Moment that they've actually decided. But it wasn't like, we decide Thursday and we'll let him do the game. I actually decided Saturday morning, okay, we're going to make a change, which makes me think they probably, although a lot of reports saying they haven't been in talks with someone, makes me think that they probably have been. There's real confidence from them that they'll have the new manager in charge for the Southampton fixture. I tweeted during the second half, and like many, because obviously Mbumo, Kinder Bueno, whatever his name is, he obviously had the goal disallowed, which would have been a Tony assist as well. It was clearly offside.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh yeah, wow. But my feeling afterwards was, it wasn't, I've missed out on a goal and an assist. My feeling was, I hope Norwich win today. Because we've all battered them, and they've deserved to have been battered because they've been fucking terrible.
Yeah.
But it's kind of getting to the point where it wasn't fun to just keep kicking them. So I'm glad that their fans like Mark, FPL Badger, and other Norwich people I know that
plenty
have had a good winning day.
Yeah.
But they've probably not been able to enjoy it properly, because really the dismissal could have waited till yesterday, couldn't it? Yeah. I don't think they had to do it Saturday night. But I'm pleased that I think most Norwich fans are going to remember him with good grace for what he's done for them and stuff. And I think most probably do agree that the change is probably necessary to give them a chance of something changing, and they might stay up. They wouldn't be the first team to be in this situation after like 10, 11 games and suddenly get out of it. I mean, they're not bottom of the league, are they?
Not anymore.
I know, it's remarkable.
With Brentford, you hold the assets with the fixtures they got. Well, the one fixture they've got coming up. Everton onwards, you could make a case for moving on. I think one or two. Where
I'm at with it at the moment is Newcastle away next week, Everton at home. Now, my cash cow for getting Son could be that I just go, you know what, fuck it. I don't want to get rid of any of the others. Say if I generally get to the end of the international break, no injuries, I may just go, look, bollocks, and Mbeumo down to Brownhill or something. And that would allow me the Tony Wilson move in 14 as well. So it could be that Mbeumo goes. Tony, I definitely intend to hold for 12 and 13. I am looking at moving him to Wilson in 14.
It's interesting you mentioned 14, because who are they playing in 14? Well, it's the opponents that had, Norwich from yesterday. Norwich, I think, if you trust FPL's fixture difficulty rating, then you're already off your rocker. But it's rating Southampton, Wolves, and then Newcastle all as 2s for Norwich. Southampton on a good run. Wolves, very difficult to beat. I don't see anything for Norwich in the next 2. And that midweek 7:30 kickoff against Newcastle, which is away. Like, St James's Park is going to be rocking. So no interest in Norwich assets. But just kind of keep playing away. Maybe you can turn a corner.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough night, man. Leeds playing Palace. I know which game will be the better game, but I feel like I need to watch when it comes around. Newcastle against Norwich be absolutely huge.
Yeah.
If you're wondering about Wilson, for me, again, because I'm looking to wildcard in 16, I'm looking at 14, Norwich at home, Burnley at home, 15, and then he goes again on the wildcard. So it's very short-term thinking. I'm not really recommending that move to anybody else unless they have the luxury of making that short-term move, because Newcastle's fixtures after that from 16, they've got a horrendous Christmas where I wouldn't want any Newcastle assets. So the Brentford boys could go. Just interestingly on Norwich, because there will be people out there who obviously got Brandon Williams. Keep at the moment. Because he played quite well at the weekend.
Yeah. Chelsea 1, Burnley 1. Drop points for a team that many consider will possibly win this league. What happened?
They didn't score the second goal. It's as simple as that.
That's the Premier League for you, isn't it?
Course.
You have to keep...
They could have got beat right at the end with Vidra's lobbed effort. I mean, it's not a clear chance or anything, but if he'd hit the target, Mendy's got no chance. So, I mean, it could have even lost the game in the end. And I think this is probably the first time it's come back to bite, where the absence of like Lukaku, Mount, a few others, Pulisic came into the game very late.
Turbo Timo.
I mean, Hudson-Odoi's, I'll tell you actually, because I've got it listed. I think it's combined XG and XA from the weekend. Actually, I haven't got it listed, I tell a lie. I think it's combined XG and XA from the weekend was the most of all the players. And it was big. Obviously, there's no penalties in there or anything like that. How he hasn't got a return over the last few weeks, I really don't know. But he's not a natural goal scorer. He never strikes you as someone who's going to get goals. He should have been a brilliant asset. And I know a few people gambled on him last few weeks. I think you're unlucky that you've not had quite a bit more out of it. But I'd consider selling with a few Chelsea players like Pulisic, as already said. He obviously came on as a sub at the weekend. I'd look to move that on. He just didn't score the second goal. It's as simple as that, basically. Pope made some good saves. There was some bad misses in there. I think particularly one from Ross Barkley, who interestingly kind of played in the hole. He's integrating Tuchel, Ross Barkley and Ruben Loftus-Cheek into the squad a little bit, whereas I think pre-season it looked like they've got no chance. I think he's managing the squad very well at the moment. This is a setback and little more than that for Chelsea.
Yeah, exactly. I think they'll look at it and think, what did our title rivals do? And Liverpool dropped points. City obviously won, but Liverpool dropped points.
Yeah, but then the Chelsea won at Newcastle the week before, and Liverpool drew at home to Brighton, and City lost at home to Palace, right?
Yeah. So they're the most efficient, consistent team there. So
it's good. It's good for the league that the big clubs are dropping points, right? It's got to be, rather than these three teams winning every single week. It has to be good. Also makes fantasy a lot more interesting as well. Now we are at the end of this brilliant run for Chelsea. Chilwell and James owners, I don't think you go anywhere. I think for myself, I mentioned the idea of selling Rudiger for someone. Again, it's a short term. It's probably a judgment for me that I'll actually go without Chelsea defensive till our wild card in 16. Because basically, as I said earlier, with just Rudiger, I'm losing anyway. And he's not going to match James or Chilwell very often from an attacking output. Yes, you've got the consistency of always play, but actually, he might be the one I decide to sacrifice, because I don't want to buy Dyer or Davis. If I go in that area, I would much rather buy Emerson or Reguilon. And the only way to do that, really, for me, would be to sell Antonio Rudiger. And it's Leicester away, United at home, Watford away, and then West Ham away, isn't it? So can I cope without it for a little bit? That said, for most people, like if you've obviously most people will have already used their first wild card, I still go and buy them.
Yeah,
like without hesitation, no concerns. They had that big spell in when Tuchel come in, didn't they? Rough run of fixtures and had loads of clean sheets. United at home, Liverpool away and stuff.
More on the way.
So don't fear it. I think I would still personally prefer Ben Chilwell over Reece James with just a little bit more security on starts. Reece James, what a cross that is for Havertz. That's one of the best crosses of the season so
I think
far. Havertz don't even break stride. It just hits his head.
We're talking about Cancelo being the best left back, right back, but Reece James is putting himself up there.
I'm a big fan of Reece James as a footballer.
Oh, of course.
Massive.
He's really done well. Burnley on the other side, strangely, are in the relegation zone, having only lost one of their last 5. But I look at the 4 teams above them and think you're going to probably finish the league higher than all of them. Watford, Villa, Leeds, Brentford. Currently, I feel like Burnley have the ability to jump above them all. They're just drawing too many games at the moment.
That's okay. Maybe they're losing too many games, right? So this happens every year with Sean Dyche's team. They tend to start
slow. 3 points up from being 15th.
And then very quietly things happen, like the odd draw at Chelsea and the odd clean sheet you don't expect. And suddenly Burnley assets are back on your radar. I mean, look, the 4 points from Brentford at home, they battered Brentford last week. And then even Sean Dyche admitted they've nicked the point here, in fairness. Is good, and they have a good run of fixtures going up till basically when they play Manchester United away, which is, I want to say, Gameweek 20. Good run of fixtures. And I think, like, again, I'm looking for someone at that kind of 4.4, 4.5 value potentially to cover me the next few weeks. If I didn't already have, I'd happily go to Burnley again. I'm not going to go and get a second one. I've already got Matt Lowton. But I think those Burnley defensive players are definitely worth considering as regular kind of backups on your bench. Like, you know, if you want to go for a strong back three and Livramento and Lowton as your subs or something like what I've got, I think that's very, very reasonable. Keep an eye on Maxwell Cornet. And I had a few people ask me on my stream on Friday about buying him. I was like, come on, it's Chelsea away. You're not buying him this week. Now go and have a second look. He's playing OOP up front. He looks a lively player. His goal involvement is good for them. He's a very interesting differential option now that their fixtures are turning.
Crystal Palace 2, Wolves 0. Conor Gallagher again on the score sheet, finally at home, and picked up maximum bonus points, which as an owner
finally make it out like he's got 8 goals away from home or something.
He hasn't got, but they've all been away from home. But Zaha has been performing particularly well. He provides an interesting alternative. I'm not going to call it a decent alternative. An interesting alternative for people that are moving away from Kai Havertz and want a midfielder that's kind of lowly owned and maybe not quite dropping down the budget, but decent enough.
But Conor Gallagher's lowly owned.
Yeah, he is. But the concern that I've seen with Conor Gallagher is obviously if Eze gets back into the team now, because he's training and getting back to being ready, that Gallagher will still be in the team, but he may play a bit more withdrawn, and Eze may play further up. I think Conor Gallagher only knows one way to play, which is everywhere. He's just all action. So I don't mind leaving Conor Gallagher in there at his price because I feel comfortable dropping him. If I had a Zaha or an Eze, I would never feel comfortable potentially dropping him. The same goes for who you just mentioned in Maxwell Cornet. I was about to raise it as a question and a discussion point, but I parked it hoping that it would be in the Twitter questions. Where would you buy Cornet? 4th midfielder? 5th midfielder? If you get Cornet, you can't not play him if he's OOP as a striker.
Correct.
So suddenly, is he your 4th or 3rd? Are you playing a 3-4-3 then? Are you locking yourself into a 3-4-2 maybe? And you've got to play him week in, week out. I think if you now go to a Zaha, you're in the same boat. Gallagher, I can bench him if they've got a difficult fixture. So these are the kind of the things to think about. But Palace, home win against Wolves, probably second behind Southampton as the team that I got second most wrong going into this season in terms of what I thought they would do. Pulling up trees here.
Is he still second highest scoring midfielder in the game, Gallagher?
Points-wise.
I don't know if Mane's 2-pointer went back ahead of him yesterday or so.
Midfielders, let's have a look here. Yes, 62 points. 3 points clear of Sadio Mane and 4 points clear of Son. Closely followed by another midfielder that's exactly the same price as Conor Gallagher, Emile Smith-Rowe. 2 5.80s in there. Followed by 2 West Ham midfielders, 6'4", 6'3". There's value all across that there.
Yeah, I mean, this time last week, if I was buying one, I'd have bought Smith-Rowe. This week, I'd buy Gallagher. But that's just because Smith-Rowe's got Liverpool away, right?
Chuck Cornet into the mix at 6 million.
Smash the camera first, please. Suj.
Yeah, no worries. We've got 8 minutes.
Oh, you're on timer, are you?
Yeah.
You're doing good. Well done, mate. That's literally it, because I'm a kind of a fixtures head, so that's how I'd play it. I wouldn't go and buy Smith-Rowe now before Liverpool away. Again, if let's say Rafinha gets injured on international duty, or I decide that's the player I want to remove, which for a short period I might do, although I think people know what I think of Rafinha is a season keeper generally. I could go, Rafinha to Gallagher, that's the money. Burnley away, Palace at home, next 2. And again, for me, just thinking short term, that's all right. Not sure I'd want him for United away 15 necessarily, but then that could be my 1 week punt to look for someone else, right?
His ownership has crept up to 13.7%.
It's fucking low, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you
second
look at
highest scorer in the game and dirt cheap.
The top 6 midfielders. The reason I've drawn a line at top 6 is that's Benrahma, and below Benrahma is Bowen, and Bowen is 1.8% at 7th, so that's like dirty low. But it goes Salah 71. Benrahma, who's 6th at 30. Smith-Rowe is at 20. Son is at 19. Then you've got Gallagher at 13.7%. And below him, who's the 3rd highest scorer, at 4%. We all didn't buy him because Salah was the same price, give or take, half a minute. It's Sadio Mane.
Gallagher's live ownership will obviously be more than that. It's obviously worth saying.
True, yeah.
But It's still pretty low, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not particularly hurting anybody's ranks. He's just doing very well for
Nicely.
those that do own him, basically. You mentioned obviously about Zaha earlier. You just could not make the case to buy him over Gallagher at the moment. I don't think.
No.
Just couldn't for the price difference. What's Wilf, 7 million-ish?
7 exactly on the nose.
But you couldn't. You couldn't justify buying him over Gallagher at the
He's
moment.
got he's at 7 point something % ownership. There's not a huge delta.
I think
between.
if you were buying Wilfred Zaha, it'd only be because you already own Conor Gallagher. I think that's where it would be at generally at the moment. Odds-on Edouard keeps playing in wide positions, but played well at the weekend. I'd just be a little bit concerned about him still, that you've got, as you mentioned, Eze's very close now. Michael Elise's kind of in and around the squad now. And I feel like Vieira does want to use Benteke as the central striker at the moment. So just still be a little bit concerned about investing in him personally. We had a long chat about Palace last week, and we came to the conclusion that because of question marks elsewhere, it still had to be Gallagher. And I don't sit here and feel any different this week. They might be the defensive team that I consider, because I really need coverage for game week 13, something defensively. And Palace at home to Villa is optional to look at. And I would probably go Tyreek Mitchell, I think, personally, under this fantasy football format.
What's your thoughts on Wolves?
Not the best day. I mean, I didn't agree with Bruno Lage's comments, and I watched most of this game. I didn't agree with Bruno Lage's comments that it deserved something out of it. For me, Palace were a better side for the majority of the game. And we're a little bit unlucky with the 8-Nori decision. Could easily have been a penalty. They're better off having him in the team rather than Marcel. I just think Palace, we've been saying it week on week, like, start taking them seriously. This isn't a disaster for Wolves. And they've got a couple of good fixtures still to come. One of them's not the next one, which we'll be previewing on Clash the Correspondents this week, which is against your team, West Ham. But then Norwich away, Burnley at home. Very reasonable. And if you're sitting there with the likes of Hwang, Jimenez, right, they're difficult to sell at the moment. I think you keep even Semedo. I saw a lot of that on my timeline Saturday. Fucking Semedo doing my head in. Yeah, but so's Norwich and Burnley in 13 and 14, making you want to keep, I think. What are you actually getting better in the short term? And they've done well, Wolves. They've done well. Palace were deserving winners here. I wouldn't be investing in Wolves players this week, but 13 again for me, 13 and 14, I might have a look. As an alternative. Say Tony got injured, I could see me going Jimenez, because I don't want to go Wilson for Arsenal away. I could see me going Jimenez instead.
Brighton 1, Newcastle 1. Same old Brighton. Always drawing games they should be winning.
It must frustrate the life out of Brighton fans, honestly.
I think it does. I saw FPL Seagull Sam, our correspondent, tweeting the same thing.
But in fairness, he said he didn't play well second half.
No. But a point for Newcastle, they'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of really interesting points here from fantasy to take away. One is that Neil Maupay, hello to that person who's always on my YouTube stream screaming about buying Neil Maupay. I haven't heard from him for a couple of weeks, oddly enough. Didn't start. And Trossard played as the 9 again. Yeah,
actually. He was in our minus 56. You went
good.
with him. He was the one that I was disappointed that I didn't get for this week, Trossard. Do you think it could stick? Because then you've got another OOP midfielder.
I think it could stick because
that 6.5 million value is playing as a striker.
At the moment, they don't have many injuries in the midfield area other than Steven Elzati. So they've got a lot of options in there. And they have players like Lallana, Mwepu, Moda, Gross, March. They can all play multiple positions. All of them. The only one that basically always plays the same position for them is Basuma, basically. So they've got different options in there to play in a different way, like playing Tariq Lamptey as a right winger. Hello. What price Tariq? Still 4.4, is he?
Cheap.
Ownership of what? Couple of children.
He's little wildfire, isn't he? Firecracker even, Tariq.
He could be the one for me, because again, I'm looking at 13 cover, Leeds at home.
It's decent.
Could be. He could be the one that I come in. And I think because Sanchez is going to be unavailable at Villa, I'd possibly bench him at Villa. But I think, yeah, Lamptey, you've got to keep your eye on that. I mean, if he's going to play where he played on Saturday night as well, which I think is part of integrating him back in the team. talking of integrating back into the team, the other thing that Sam FPL Seagull said was, let's get rid of this Duffy experiment now and get Webster back in the team.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think that then moves them to a back three. I think, but then again, so many midfield options. But I think you could see Brighton playing a system like 3-6-1 in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
I don't think that's impossible. So Brighton assets well worth keeping an eye on because there's some good, cheap, lowly owned players. I mean, Trossard's ownership, he's always a differential, isn't he? Always. I think you need to keep an eye on him at the moment. For Newcastle,
Callum Wilson's also only on 2% ownership, mate. He does get on well with Eddie Howe. I really like your Callum Wilson shout, and I think there are
definitely people thinking of making that move this week, going Tony straight to Wilson.
Yeah.
And I can understand that. I can understand that with Brentford having Raya injured, Zanka went off injured at the weekend, we didn't mention as well. It does slowly feel like the odd problems building up for Brentford. I mean, losing at home to Norwich is obviously a very big one. So I can see people, if it's affordable, making that Tony to Wilson move this week. Yeah, but he's the only one at the moment. Javier Manquillo came out of the team as well, so Murphy was back in. So I don't know if that dream's dead or not, but I would have thought Eddie Howe would prefer to play Murphy. But then Eddie Howe might come in, he might completely change it to back four.
Yeah.
The one thing I do know is Callum Wilson will be a central striker as long
Correct.
as he's fit. He's the one that's interesting. Now, for me, definitely Wilson over St. Maximin at this stage if you're going in and looking. And I think the new manager bounce as well. The timing could be right, couldn't it? And actually, if you just look at the 4 fixtures, look, Newcastle could lose 4-1 at Arsenal, right? Callum Wilson could score. He's that kind of player, isn't he? Good centre forward, differential certainly at the moment as well. I think he's very interesting next few weeks, Callum Wilson.
Let's smash through a few of these.
Did you see Lewis Dunk trying to put on Sanchez's gloves, by the way?
No, I saw him.
So
I saw
funny.
photos of him in the goalkeeping.
Lewis Dunk definitely has bigger hands than Sanchez. So funny. Love it when an outfield player goes in goal.
Always.
Why didn't they put the ball in the box from the free kick?
No idea.
And just put it right on his head? I don't understand what goes through players' minds sometimes. But it's a good result for Newcastle, actually.
Good. Let's smash through some of these games. These games were all at 2 o'clock. I was somewhere, couldn't watch them, and you were inside the ground at Goodison. Arsenal 1, Watford 0. Smith-Rowe on the score sheet again. Smith-Rowe is locked in the team. He's an attacking midfielder. He's cheap as chips. Yeah.
I want to know currently, you own him, right?
Nope.
Oh, you don't? Are you going to buy him?
Back to the same question that I had around Cornet, Gallagher, Zaha. What position, what midfielder is he for me? So I've got Yves Bissouma as 5th midfielder at 4.5, so bench fodder. Then I've got Conor Gallagher as 4th midfielder. And then I've got Havertz, Mo Salah, and who's my other midfielder? Rafinha. So where does he fit in? Does he fit in his place of Gallagher? Is it worth it? Does he fit in ahead of Bissouma? I need to find money. Does he fit in ahead of Rafinha? Which of those 3 would you sacrifice for Emile Smith-Rowe right now? That's the dilemma right now.
I wouldn't. I'm just not going to buy him this week when it's Liverpool away,
exactly.
personally.
So I'll just leave it.
But if you're a wild card in now, this is an interesting debating point. If you're wild card in now and you go midfield 5, right? Salah, obviously. I think if you're on wild card, you go Heung-min Son. Jota, Gallagher, Smith-Rowe. Now, the only one that springs to my mind there where I think, and I can see people going, no, James, you've got to have Phil Foden. That's
Rafinha,
fine.
You're happy to...
No, I'm telling you that I think for those wild carding right now, that's the 5 that most people would go for.
Yeah.
I think. Of course, you could go Rafinha instead, but affordability, once you've gone Salah and Son, and I think like Callum Wilson would come into consideration if you were wild carding this week, for example. Do you go Kane as well? If you've gone Salah, Son and Kane, which is what I'm going to have, then the financials become quite difficult, doesn't it? And you could look at Smith-Rowe or Gallagher over Rafinha and go, that's the saving. Now, that might not be the one that's worth the saving, but with the form of Cancelo's, James, Chilwell's, Trent, you've got a problem, haven't you, right? So I think, most people with wildcard would probably still go with Smith-Rowe because it just offers such brilliant value at the moment. You look at it and go, fine, it's Liverpool away. I've got Newcastle at home the week after. He's going to pass me by because United away and Everton away, I think for the 4 fixtures with my short-term thinking at the moment means I'm probably not going to go there unless it's a case of me finding the money. I'm interested to see if most people start him or bench him. in game week 12, because there's other teams with good fixtures, right?
Yeah.
It's not a straightforward one. It's probably one you can leave out, but I mean, Liverpool, as you saw yesterday, they're not fantastic defensively at the moment. He's definitely the one from Arsenal to go for. Watford, meh. I know they've got some complaints about the goal and stuff, which is kind of fair enough, but I'm always liable to kind of accept the on-field decision unless it's blatantly wrong. Yeah, they probably should have given the ball back, but then you've still defended the cross. Then something else has happened. Okay, yes, it's arguably a foul, but White dances through a couple of people. Shouldn't really be happening. They are in the middle of a horrendous run, Watford.
Horrible.
Manchester United next, then Leicester, then Chelsea, Man City. In that case, it gets worse each week for them. The only Watford asset to even speak of at the moment is Ben Foster, who was on everybody's bench this week, except, as I said, those who kept David Raya. Because, okay, fine, Foster played for me this week. I'll sort that problem out next week. And interestingly, Robert Sanchez owners have now got the same dilemma, right? Do you just go what you said? Do you just play Foster against Man United? Ray is different because, I mean, he's out for months. So, I mean, you are going to have to sell it at some point. But in your case, with Sanchez 1 week, if you want to keep Sanchez, then I think you just accept it, right?
Yep, you do.
What a save from the penalty, by the way, because it's
very
really
good
acrobatic for...
All I took away from the commentary on the save of the penalty was like, Ben Foster, 38-year-old goalkeeper, saves penalty. I was like, he's 38 and he's moving that.
Have you seen the save?
I'm thinking, if I was at 38, which is a couple of years ago, able to dive like that, I think my body might...
Have you seen the save?
Yeah.
He basically kind of locks it between his arm and his leg.
Yeah.
But I can't even get into that position sitting on the floor.
You're the same age as him. I'm only a couple of years older, and he's flexible. He must be doing a bit of yoga in between making YouTube videos. But no one's buying many from Watford right now with their run. We need to talk about Everton 0, Spurs 0. We did talk about Spurs. We did talk about Spurs assets earlier, so we don't necessarily need to give it the rundown on which Spurs assets are worth buying. It's Dyer and Davis and all that shit. But yeah,
I'm going to steal a quote from one of our patrons, Heidi, who's an Everton fan, who put it on Slack and said, Spurs were basically the same as us, organised but harmless. And it completely sums up the game, because Everton were better defensively, but then we didn't hurt them. And Tottenham were much better defensively, and Everton didn't hurt them. If there was a plus to take out of that yesterday, it was that
the shape
from
of
a Spurs perspective,
5-2-3-1 is taking shape.
Never
5-3-2.
Never thought we were going to concede particularly. It was a small spell in the game around the penalty incident at the time. I'll tell you some funny shit about that on Tottenham on Wednesday, mate.
Lovely.
But other than that, the crowd got up for 5 minutes or so after that. The game was never really in danger. That said, never thought we were going to score. In fact, there were similarities to the West Ham game, which I think you and I were both in agreement that day that this looks like it's going to finish 0-0. And this looked like that all the way through the game.
It did. I had a lot of fun with that penalty incident because regular listeners know I missed the West Ham game because I was at a family event, which was at that time. So I had two of my cousins in front of me, one on one side and one on the other. One's watching the Arsenal game on Sky Go, so he was 2 minutes behind. So I had the fucking headphone in, mate, listening to the football commentary, and the other's a Spurs fan. So the one that started celebrating the Smith-Rowe goal, I said to him, mate, you're 2 minutes behind. I've got it on my headphones. You've got VAR to look forward to, mate. And he was like, have I really? I was like, nah, I'm just winding you up. And the other one was the penalty incident. So I told him, penalty Everton. And then like 3 minutes later or 4 minutes later, I'm like, don't worry, mate, you're right. It's been given overturned. But that's the worst inside the ground, isn't it?
What?
Waiting for decisions and stuff.
To be honest, I think that's the first kind of real VAR experience I've had in the stadium this year. We seem to have missed most of that nonsense. I'll tell you on Wednesday, it was quite amusing because the referee was right in front of us looking at the monitor and stuff, right? And obviously he's getting untold abuse from both sets of fans about what's happening next. There's nothing to write home about here from an FPL perspective. I think if you're sitting there with the likes of Damari Gray, Man City away next, you are now really looking to move that on. Everton do have a some tough fixtures to come. Got Liverpool at home to come in a couple of weeks. Arsenal at home. They're on a very good run at the moment. So I think the Everton assets go. Gray, Townsend, if you're on that. I mean, if you're sitting there with Gray or Townsend, you must be looking at kind of Gallagher, Smith-Rowe now and thinking, like, if you've got nothing better to do, I would make that move, like Gray to Smith-Rowe in 12, in spite of the fixtures, because I think Gray's got a rough one as well. Let's get this done, get this ready for the week after. Spurs, as we said near the start, you're going Kane or Son now at the moment. You're doing it on expectation of manager bounce, and you're doing it on the fixtures. You ain't doing it on nothing.
Not form. Not
because it ain't there. It's not just Kane. Heung-min Son is not playing well at the moment either. It was not good yesterday. Defensively, the two best efforts that Tottenham had in the game, bar Lo Celso's very late effort that hit the post, and it would have been robbery if we'd won. And I told the police officer in front of me that as well. Reguilon and Emerson had our two best efforts, right? Both from crosses and them getting on the end of it at the other side. Reguilon's the one you might have seen where he comes in late at the back post and he volleys it over. Reguilon's not a good finisher, and you should bear that in mind. I don't think he scored yet for us. Odd assist, yeah, but actually if you're kind of expecting 15, 18 point Reece James stuff, I think you can,
not going to happen.
No, you can put that to bed. Emerson on the back post could be really interesting because he's a unit in the air as well. He completely mistimed a header that he should have scored in the first half. He's ended up kind of heading it onto his arm and it goes over or something. I honestly really might go Emerson rather than Reguilon if I end up buying now. No. It's a very, very close call. Know that whichever one you buy will be the wrong one. That's how this game works. Oliver Skipp was much better for Tottenham yesterday, but he will be suspended for the Leeds game, 5th yellow card.
Ouch. Quite early in the season to get 5th yellow card.
Oh, Ollie loves a booking. Yeah.
Leeds 1, Leicester 1, which is the game you got coming up. Rafinha, thank you for the return. Not so much for your yellow card, but he still managed to walk away with maximum bonus points. In FPL, where it's not like man of the match, where in Sky, where it's like so arbitrary that you think Rafinha could pick it up. But good that he picked up maximum bonus points. Leicester might come away and think, okay, away draw, I'll take it. Harvey Barnes finally on the score sheet. Again, game didn't watch, only caught bits and pieces. It feels almost like I'm not buying any Leicester players and I don't own any players. Rafinha's the only Leeds player I'm going to have. I've got no FPL interest in this game, and neither are a threat to our top 4 position, so I'm not even interested from a football point of view.
Oh, you'll upset the Leicester fans now. Leeds, from a fantasy perspective, yeah, it's all about Rafinha and what you do. And as I said, anybody who follows me, particularly on my streams, I quite often just tell people, shut up and buy Rafinha. This is my answer quite a lot. I just think he's such a good asset, but he might be my cash cow. It's Tottenham away, Brighton away. I think the situation with Tottenham, whatever you think of him at the moment, he's going to make it a difficult game for Leeds. Antonio Conte's first league home game and stuff. Then it's Brighton away. Brighton were ever so good against Leeds in both fixtures last year. Palace at home, fine. Brentford at home looks a good fixture. But for me, who's going to then wildcard in 16, I'm absolutely certain that Rafinha won't be in my wildcard.
Yeah.
Chelsea away, Man City away, Arsenal at home, Liverpool away. And if I want to go back, I can go back. So I think those who do have Rafinha, there is possibly a decision to make about, do you want that over the Christmas period? Now, the one good thing about a Rafinha is if he's fit, he'll play every game. And he's too good. He's too good at the moment for them to be taking him off the pitch for any reason other than injury. He is the man down now. If he gets injured, they're in fucking trouble, honestly.
Any sympathy for Lukaku owners that went to Vardy a few weeks ago? I mean, it's unfortunate, but no returns for the man.
And I'd probably hold. I think that's one you might look at sort of Vardy to Kane if it's affordable and think, okay, this was my plan. I'm not convinced, actually. If I had Vardy there, I'd be very tempted to stick it out. One, his record against the big sides in this league is proven over a number of years. Can he score against Chelsea? Yeah, he can. The sort of player that will give them trouble is Jamie Vardy running into channels, no doubt about it. Afterwards, Watford at home, Southampton away, Villa away, Newcastle at home, then Tottenham at home. Let's have some good fixtures coming up. And I think with Ndidi back, and Ricardo Pereira was back on Sunday as well, they might go on a little bit of a run here. other FPL assets that I still wouldn't look at defensively. I cannot keep a clean sheet at the moment. Barnes and Iheanacho. Barnes plays, Iheanacho doesn't. What's a goal Harvey Barnes got, by the way? Just about 8 weeks too late, you prick. But they don't play together. And I can't explain to you why it is that they won't play together, but they won't. He will not play. I don't know, maybe they hate each other. Maybe it's something I don't know. But Harvey Barnes and Kelechi Iheanacho never seem to be in the Leicester team at the same time. And those would be, were they going to play, the two most interesting other assets. Yuri Tielemans will tick over absolutely fine. But again, I don't know how you justify buying that at the moment over Smith-Rowe or Gallagher with what they're doing.
No.
So other than Rafinha and Vardy, and I think in the case of both, it's holding rather than buying. There's not a lot else to discuss here from fantasy at the moment, I don't think. And that was generally the consensus we came to with Andy and Aaron on COTC last week as well.
And let's wrap up with West Ham 3, Liverpool 2. We'll give everybody a rundown of what they got to look forward to for the rest of the week. And we'll try and squeeze in a couple of Twitter questions depending on how long we talk for. It was disappointing from Liverpool's point of view. I think in the first half, whilst they had the control of possession and the game, they didn't create enough chances at all. And will regret not actually taking the game by the scruff of the neck a little bit more. I think Salah could have probably done a lot better against Aaron Creswell, who's limited defensively. He should have tried to maybe go at him a little bit more.
Did Ogbonna go off injured, helping a blessing with that? Because you spoke about Zuma moving to left-sided centre-back.
Well, that was a unexpected outcome from it. Every bit of content that I've seen from like West Ham fans and all the rest of it on TV who were obviously at the game, which I gutted and missed, was that Zuma is possibly signing of the summer for us and is just class. He's brilliant. So potentially, yes. And Moisey tactically obviously tried to eventually, for the second half, double up on either side with Masuaku and whatever else, Soufal coming on. In the second half, though, I think I managed to watch the first 20 minutes of the last 20 minutes of this first half and all of the second half, and I was worried for the second half because no shots on target, very little attacking impetus from what I saw. And the second half, I thought West Ham were a lot braver and decided, actually, you know what, we can't just let these guys come at us. We need to try and do something to hit them on the counter. We need to attack. And that's suddenly where you see Liverpool's defensive issues that can arise sometimes when you go at them. And we've seen it in games previously before, where if you can attack them on the counter and find the right space, you can cause them problems. And we did do that in the second half. Liverpool will feel like they should have got something out of the game and quite easily could have with the chances they had late on. But also most of the Liverpool fans I've seen have said, look, it was a difficult game, came across a good side, so be it. You kind of hold your hands up, shake hands at the end of it and walk away. Good football game. Good game of football. Enjoyed the second half a lot. I thought Van Dijk was really good. He is like 3 human beings worth in terms of his quality as a
You ever tried to get Wi-Fi on a train?
Nah. It's impossible though, I know. Even Virgin will advertise it as, yeah, we got Wi-Fi on our trains. You ain't got shit.
Mate, I watched the whole game. We literally busted. Well, I say the whole game. That's a little bit of a lie. It was about, we just about made the train back from Liverpool. It's all right. There was another one an hour later if we missed it. Just made it on. I was like, yeah, let's whack the old Wi-Fi on. I knew you was winning 1-0 and stuff. And it was like, I saw Salah win the free kick.
And then
I
knew that was a goal from
obviously no Wi-Fi or nothing. I'm just leaving there frozen. Oh, it'll fresh in a minute. It doesn't matter if I'm behind. No one else on this train's watching it. Like 4 minutes later, it's 1-1. What's happened? Obviously, Trent must have scored the free kick, right? And it also did the same when Fornals went through, and it was like, what's going to happen here? Yeah. So I probably only saw about 10 minutes of the game, having sat there and tried to watch all of it on the train. But from what I've seen back last night and stuff, it looked like you deserve to win it, mate.
I think with games like that, there's so many chances and so many ifs and buts. Like you could say that Cressy should have got his red card and gone off.
It's a red card, yeah.
Bonham
it's true.
Got an elbow in the head, which could have gone a different way. I don't think that was necessarily
Goal's okay as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and so on. So sometimes you can, ifs and buts might be maybes. You just look at it, take a step back and look at the bigger picture. 2 good teams having a great game of football. One of them has to win 1-1. That was it. Like, if we'd have lost it, I would have walked away feeling like, well, if I'm going to lose a game of football, I want to lose it like that. And so that's, I think, how a lot of Liverpool fans feel. You don't want to re-adjudicate every last little decision. It doesn't put me off Liverpool in any stretch. And actually, Jota's I'm going to add from an attacking point of view because of Firmino's absence. And the front three in behind Antonio, any of which offer you great value. Bowen, Fornals, or Benrahma. Benrahma's really growing into his role. I feel like he feels like he's manning up every
You're not
week.
buying them at the moment, though, are you?
Not
This
with
run
the
of 4 fixtures is. And listen, you're still having good results. It's not that you can't, but from a fantasy perspective, I mean, Wolves away, City away, Brighton at home,
Wolves
Chelsea
away
at home.
straight after the international break. And then, so we've got to go for that. Then we have Vienna midweek in the Cup. I think he'll massively rotate.
Forget this Europa shit, you're through, man.
But he'll massively rotate, which means City we attack again on a Sunday, having had majority week's rest. And so, we just got to keep doing what we're doing week in, week out. I think there's plenty of assets you can go for at West Ham and Liverpool. And that's it. Trent, I love. Salah, I'm never going to move.
I think the only West Ham player you would buy right now is Ben Johnson. 3.9.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
He's staying in the team at the moment, isn't he?
Really, if it solves a problem, but the price of our players, there's other players that could potentially solve a problem for you better. If you've used your first wild card and you need someone that's going to keep you through to like Gameweek 30 or whatever, you don't really want to piss about with transfers and what have you, and you think, well, a Bowen or a Fornals at 6 point something, I'm happy to just leave them for weeks and weeks and weeks. Fine. But yeah, there's better players at better price points out there right now that might not even score more points than these guys. That's the irony of it.
If you don't want Soufal, fancy lending it down to your mates down at Tottenham, because I see a bit Matt Doherty yesterday and I don't need that shit in my life.
Yeah.
Who came on at left wing back, by the way. Just one final point, Emerson's fitter than Reguilon. I think that's why that change was made very late in the game. Doherty came on and played left wing back. Johnson I think is very reasonable get at the moment. 3.9. He's playing too well to get dropped, and I think that's Moyes' attitude on that is, you keep playing well, you stay in the team, and I think how you are at the moment, that's how it should work. What would you say to Antonio owners who are still kept?
He had a indifferent game yesterday. I just thought what he offers you in terms of running the channels and work rate and so on was still there. On the ball, with the ball at his feet, he looked clumsy, tripped over himself a little bit. But then I think as a striker, if the defender you're coming up 1-on-1 against is Virgil van Dijk, you shit yourself a bit. You just kind of think, if I don't get this perfect, he's just going to tackle me. And I think that's what happened yesterday. Most of his 1-on-1s, he was up against Virgil van Dijk. And Van Dijk is one of the few physical defenders in the league that can actually go toe-to-toe with Antonio. And that's eventually what happened. So he's still in and around the attacking chances. He's got 3 good creative players in behind him. And as a team, West Ham are scoring goals. So I'd stick. If you've got value built up, you don't want to lose the value, I'd stick. I'm going to stick for a few more games. Yeah. Okay.
I think at Wolves away, if I was Mikel Antonio, I'd be pinning myself in the spaces between Conor Cody and Roman Saiz. And he'll do some damage. Don't think he can't return at Wolves. He definitely can. We'll speak about that a bit more on COTC.
Yeah, indeed. And also, we'll talk a bit more about West Ham in Tottenham on Wednesday, which is a nice segue into letting people know all the other stuff that they've got to look forward to in the week 1 of the international break. We're mixing it up a little bit, a few different bits of content for both the patrons and the regular pod. What do they have to look forward to, James?
So people's polls been and gone. That's because Suj is unavailable for podcast recording on Tuesday. So we were going to pre-record it tonight, but as Villa won, I've got our man on board to talk about it anyway. Mr.
He'll do
Lee
a better
Jackson.
job, so let's be fair.
Well, yeah.
Let him crack on.
Myself and Lee Jackson will be doing the people's poll tomorrow, talking about Dean Smith sacking, what it means next for Villa, some of the emotion involved with that. Why has it ended in this position? Why they're on a bad run of obviously 5 defeats in a row. Wednesday, Sky Fantasy Football. Thursday, as alluded to, Bradley Parker, Chris Stone, Wolves versus West Ham is Clash of Correspondents this Thursday. Friday, Suj James be back. Obviously, no deadline this week. Our Patreon podcast from Intermediate Tier, our Q&A tomorrow. Much excitement for tomorrow's wildcard active. Yeah, we're going to activate my wife's wildcard, and she's going to cover Suj on the podcast tomorrow.
Loving it.
Wednesday.
If anyone didn't, was that a Patreon only the last time, Mrs.
Yeah. I can't put her out in the real world, public, mate. The fuck.
if you ever think, Patreon's not worth it or whatever, the £8 that you get this pod on, it's like buying a movie rental. It's well worth the money just to listen to James's missus. She's legend. She's absolute legend.
I'm going to try and help my wife pick a wild card. So yeah, we're going to have some banter with that. Wednesday will be Tottenham, as Suj said. I'm going to ask Suj the question if West Ham can genuinely win the Premier League title.
Well, you know what? The Twitter questions that we'd had in, the one I was going to look at is how can Moyes keep the magic going? I'll answer it in 30 seconds at the end of this show, but we'll talk about it in more detail, because it was the first question I had when I came into the office from one of our colleagues today was, can you win the league?
Thursday's quiz is going to be dedicated to a manager who got sacked over the weekend. No, not one of the Premier League ones. Neil Warnock broke the English football record yesterday for most games managed, 1,602 or 3. I think he's now on. His reward, Middlesbrough was getting sacked. They've replaced him with Chris Wilder, who's now in charge of Middlesbrough. And Friday, instead of differential show, we're doing an EFL special. Jamie Roberts from the EFL Fantasy Podcast will be joining me to talk Gaffer Fantasy.
Yeah, and
you got a fucking easy week this week.
Well, James says that. It's the only reason I'm not recording is I've got other things that I need to do to pay the bills. But, you know, there'll always be content for our Planet FPL army. I've got 3 questions here, James, that we're going to answer very quickly.
I haven't told him about the advanced tier content this week either.
And that's another thing that's well worth the few quid that people chuck in, because some of your Talking Tactics videos have been going down really well.
And this week,
I almost feel bad keeping them behind a paywall.
Yeah, fuck them. I need to make money.
James got food to
I'll be taking a closer look at Conor Gallagher on Talking Tactics this week for our advanced tier patrons. Why is he doing so fucking well in fantasy football? Not just FPL, but also in Sky Fantasy, obviously. Twitter stories be taking a laughable look back at Tino Liverevento night, Southampton Villa, this magic 6-pointer which decided everybody's weekend. We'll do the unanswered Qs.
Yeah.
Wednesday, I do a news roundup. Friday, we'll be having some Zoom calls with our advanced tier patrons as well.
Nice. Sounds fantastic. In answer to that question, can West Ham win the league? Firstly, strength and depth is a big problem. But the only thing I throw back at anybody is we played 17 games this season. We've only lost 2. United, 89th minute. Brentford, 93rd minute. That's the 2 defeats this season that we've had. And draws... Well, there's been a few draws, but Palace, we led twice in that game as well. So when you look at the volume of games, there's not been a single game that we've been out of or not competed in or not been at least in the mix to get points. So if that continues, then why not? Like if we were fluking our points week in, week out... This is
the same guy who predicts you not to win every single week.
It's changed now. I can't anymore. They've
oh, now you bagging it. Fucked.
They can't anymore because had we been fluking our points and jamming results, I would say, yeah, no chance. But there's not a jammy point in it. We've played well in every game. This is why you can't then not say we've got to keep in it.
Based on the fact that all your opinions on West Ham tend to be wrong, my takeaway from this is that you're going to get beat at Wolves by about 5-3 and Antonio's going to get a hat-trick.
Possibly, maybe. Let's see. But yeah, just look at enjoy the process, not just the results, and just that's what it's all about at the moment. FPL Nacho, James, this is a good one. What's your favourite podcast that you guys record on a week? We do quite a lot. What's your favourite one?
It depends. To be honest, probably this one still.
I was going to say the same.
Monday's favourite day because with the Q&A can be a riot depending on the questions as well.
Sure, yeah.
So probably those, but then like Tottenham I think was great last week on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Obviously kind of the emotion of what was happening with Spurs last week and stuff. So yeah, but it's still Monday's still the
Monday
best
main
day.
pod for sure. Q&A is always good. I like Tottenham because there's not a lot of prep necessarily. We just come with our emotions.
And I guess for myself personally, Clash of Correspondents
is always good as well. And the other one I like is the quiz. That's always good fun. And the thing with the quiz and this pod is I always feel like I'm learning something new, like sitting here talking about ideas and strategy and even football and tactics. I feel like I'm learning something new. And those are the two pods where I always feel like I've walked away learning something. So
what, the quiz?
Yeah.
It's educational as well, isn't it?
It is educational, as well as being comedy. So yeah, and there was one other question that I'd chosen, James, was above this.
Was it a good one?
It was.
Are you
yes.
sure?
Oh, very simple, because we'll give a bit of a shout out to some of our friends, mate. Dave H wants to know, are you going to be playing Champ Man FPL Season 3?
Yes, I'll join in, of course.
Yeah, and they are restarting that. Those, I think...
It looks like it.
It's only a year and a half ago since that game kind of during lockdown and football pausing really helped a lot of people. And it's good to see the guys still plugging away. There's all sorts of new content on it as well. So if you fancy a slightly different game, is it going to be what, season 2000, 2001?
I'm not sure what they're going to do yet, but it's coming.
A simulated version of fantasy that worked really well. Do go and search Champman FPL on Twitter and get involved if you're looking at a slightly different game to play. Smaller community of people, but really fun, good community of people as well. So that's upcoming, possibly maybe, from their kind of tweets. And that, James, is a wrap. Another Monday, another pod.
I was biting my tongue there, making sure I don't get involved in any streams.
Yeah, I mean, it was easier back then with no football. But
you're not wrong.
Yeah, indeed. But some of those were real classics.
If you want to do like The Sims at like 10 a.m. on a Thursday, I might do it.
Not going to work. So, listeners, make sure you're subscribed wherever you are listening to the podcast so you get notified about all of the content that goes live. If you want to learn more about the show and how you can support us, it's patreon.com/Planet FPL. The socials are all easy to find. We love you all. Thank you for the support. Look after yourselves. Stay safe. Enjoy the international break. We'll be back at you tomorrow. Well, we won't. James will. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man child.